Hello and welcome back to another lesson in the Raspberry Pi. Tonight we'll be looking at a particular sensor called the PIR sensor. And that's one of those passive infrared sensor. And what it does is that it senses the heat signature of someone or something, and then it can trip off maybe a light or turn a motor. So the application for this sensor is kind of endless. So I just want to show you the operation of the sensor, how it works. It is able to track whether something is passing, right? So if a person is passing, if you look at those standard yard light that we have, when somebody passes by, the yard light comes on. So the PIR sensor works in the same way. So looking through this, please think about all the application you can use these for. If you're setting an alarm system, for example, you can have it run off a buzzer. So a buzzer would go off if somebody passes around. It can turn on a light. It can open a garage door. It can open a gate, right? It can open a door. So if you're wondering how those automatic doors open, whenever you step into buildings, it's probably a PIR sensor that senses and then pushes the motor to open the door. So let's get into it and see how that goes. All right, so what we're doing tonight is that we're hooking up this little sensor here. This is a PIR movement sensor, or a passive infrared movement sensor. And what it does is that it can sense whenever something moves around it. So those lights that you see for the yard light that has a sensor on it, they probably have a passive PIR, a passive infrared sensor on it. So to hook this up, if you can see this, it has some pins there. The one on the right hand side here, that's my 5-volt pin. The one in the middle supplies the signal, and the one over on this side is our ground pin. And so we'll see if we can get that hooked up to the breadboard and connect it to one of these pins, right? The other two, this knob that you can see in the front here, those are for adjustment of the sensitivity for the PIR chip, for the PIR sensor. And then there are a bunch of capacitors on it. And then there's this jumper. I think it's for one time or for multiple times sensing. So that stays as is. So I'm just going to get this set up. I don't know if it'll fit here on the breadboard. So I'll actually run some wires to it and see if we could get that going. I know last time we didn't get a chance to talk about breadboards. The breadboards are quite simple. These are all wired across this way, and then these are wired this way, right? So all these pins are interconnected to each other here, going this way. So these are all connected, right? Of course, if you want to learn more about breadboards, I would recommend you look up a couple of videos on breadboards. I don't want to go through all that for these particular lessons. All right, so I got a chance to get the PIR sensor connected to the breadboard and hooked up to the Raspberry Pi. Here is our positive lead and the negative lead, and those leading to the adapter here on the breadboard. If you notice, we have the positive lead to the 5 volts all the way up here. And remember that is wired through. Also the negative lead, which is our brown wire. In the middle, my sensor wire goes to pin number 12 on the Raspberry Pi, and my LED is wired to pin number 22. I have also placed a resistor in between to help in having me not blow the other LED. And you notice every time it senses movement, the light comes on. So testing it a couple of times just to make sure it works. And what I'll do next is that I'll show you the code so that you can take a look at it. And remember that you can always pause the video to view the code, right? So I'm not putting the code below. Alright, so here's a copy of the code that I use. I try to make the code fairly short. What we have there is an import GPIO as GPIO to start and get the pin set. I also use the time library, so I imported time. I set the warning to false, and I'm using GPIO as BCM. I did a setup for port 12, which I used for the output for the PIR motion sensor. I also did an LED output pin at port number 22, so I set the GPIO to out. Um, the while true in this case has it kind of stuck in a loop until I press Control C or Control X to end the program. So the I is a variable I set to get GPIO input 12, and if I was equal to 0, which means that it would be low, it would then print that there is no intruder in the place and print the value for I. In that case, then the LED, if it was on, would turn off, and so I output to pin number 22 as 0 and had it at a sleep time of 0.5. The 0.5 is to allow for the PIR to get ready for the next motion. Right? There's an else if, so I set I to 1. If it's 1, then it says intruder detected, and I then turn on the LED at GPIO number 22. And again, there's a sleep time of 0.05. To note, I had to make some adjustment on the sensitivity of the PIR just to ensure that it's cycled through. I also changed the jumper pin to have it repeatedly check whether the sensor, the motion sensor, was in a low state. So I save this as move.py, and you have to ensure that you have the ending of the file when you're saving this. And I moved it back into the home folder, which was under the Pi folder, and then gave it a run. To run the program, you need to open up the terminal and type in Python space followed by the name of the program or the name that you saved it as, and that should get the program up and running. And remember, at any time you can use Control C, I believe, or Control X to stop the program. Um, and again, what I probably should have put in here for good programming practice was the try and throw, right? So I'll try to get those incorporated into my other code as we go along. I'm just trying to keep the code as short as possible so that you can understand it and then you can incorporate it into the projects that you are doing. So take some time, type out the code. It's not that long. It gives you good programming practice, and see if you can get it running on your Raspberry Pi. Our recommended programming site that I use is Codecademy, and they do offer a Python 2 version, and there's a Python 3 version. Of course, you will also encounter a Pro version there, but the Python 2 version is good enough to get you started in programming in Python. And of course, from there, it's all on you to find other tutorials, and of course, I can share some of those that I use below in the comment. But find some tutorials in Python, and the more you play around with the language, the more you learn about it. So let me quickly show you what the terminal screen looks like, and then try to get this video to the end. So here is our terminal screen. Presently says no intruder. As soon as I place my hand in front of the sensor, it says intruder detected. All right, thank you for watching. Do have a great day. Remember to hit the subscribe button below if you haven't done so, and hit the notification bell so you can see whenever I produce new videos for you. And of course, like always, guys, go geek yourself.